Shalom, family. Good to see everybody here. I certainly hope you're all doing well. Well, I'm sure you have heard about these stories that have recently come out. And yes, I did hear about the other sister that had her baby in the back of her husband's truck. We're going to talk about that one tomorrow. So today we're going to focus on what happened at a Dallas hospital. And y'all, I have been hearing these nightmare stories since I was a child. You know, back when I was a child, there were a couple of our sisters that went into the hospital and they ended up hemorrhaging and losing their lives by being neglected. And see, that's how it's done. It's done because of neglect. They neglect our babies after they're born, and they neglect the mothers, and that's why the mortality rate is so high. Unfortunately, this country has never done anything about it. But as harsh as this whole thing has been, more people need to film this in these hospitals because it does make a difference when it goes viral. So once this went viral online, the hospital got hit with a flood of phone calls from all over the country. People were blowing their phone line up, and they finally let the nurse go. Her name was LaCrista Vaughn. She was the nurse that did not do her job. Even the hospital said she did not follow procedure. Nobody should have been in a triage hollering and screaming in labor. She should have been taken to a room for delivery. She should have been removed from that area immediately. You saw she was in labor, and she actually had her baby 12 minutes later. She had her baby. And these are deliberate acts. And I just don't like the way this country does statistics as if, oh, these women are just going to the hospital and losing their lives and the babies are losing their life. No, they are losing their lives because the white doctors and staff are not doing their jobs. That's why. It's not for any other reason. And I would advise my people, please look for doctors within our community, because statistics show when you have the doctor that looks like you and your baby will do much better. And that's the truth. And you're going to always have people offended. And you know what? You know what else, y'all? Don't don't get around these Hamite nurses either, because I don't trust them either. If you can keep them away from you, keep them away from you too. Because chances are she probably don't even have a real license to work. It's probably some scam crap that she gave to the hospital that looked legitimate, but it's not. So keep them away from yourself and your baby too. It's a shame. I've been hearing these nightmare stories from primarily Black women my entire life. I have not heard one from a white woman yet because they don't get treated like this. When they go to the hospital, they're not treated like this at all. But I have heard this from women I worked with, relatives, people I was friends with. I have always heard this primarily from our women. The treatment is bad when they go in these hospitals to deliver their babies. I can't tell you how many times throughout my life I have heard these stories, and I know I'm not alone. I know many of you have heard these stories too. And I know you men have heard these stories as well. Because let's face it, you're having babies with girlfriends and wives, and you know darn well y'all have heard these stories too. So the only way to end this is start recording them. And if you are a single mother, if you are single and you're about to give birth, make sure you got someone with you that can advocate for you. Make sure somebody is there in that room and you are not alone. And that's another thing I have heard a lot. A lot of our women will go to the hospital in labor and they're alone. Don't ever go to these institutions by yourself, ever. Now, when I gave birth, I did not have problems because my husband was with me. And he looks mean anyway, nobody's gonna mess with him. He looks mean, so nobody's gonna mess with him, and the bottom line is I did not have a hard time at all. He was always there. When I gave birth, he was in the room the entire time, and the few days I was in the hospital, he was there with me all day. He took time off from work and he would come in the morning and literally stay with me the entire day. So I did not have any issues with hospital staff or doctors or anyone because he was always with me. So if you are a single mom and you're about to give birth, make sure, I don't care, get your cousin, get your sister, your brother, get somebody, but don't be up there by yourself. And in the event that you feel things are turning south, start filming this stuff. Turn your camera on. Now, the hospital fired this woman. I'm not 100% satisfied with that because as long as she still have her license to be a nurse, she can just pick up a job somewhere else or she can work privately as a private nurse. And she should never work in nursing again. See, people like that need to be weeded out. These doctors and nurses that do these sort of things, or they don't want to listen to you, or they turn their back on you and you're screaming and hollering. Uh-uh. They should not be in the profession at all. Nobody should just stop with her getting fired. This woman needs to be out of the medical field altogether. So, I haven't heard anything about lawsuits, but she needs to sue this nurse because you can put a civil suit on her butt and you need to go after the hospital because the hospital hired her. So, whatever she did on the job, they are responsible for that. So, it's been too soon, but, hopefully she will lawyer up both of these women, even the one that gave birth in her husband's car. Y'all need to lawyer up. I have never heard of white women sitting in a triage screaming and hollering and not taken to a room if they are in labor. I have never heard of that happening even once. So, especially you people down there in Texas, y'all need to get on the medical board or wherever she got her nursing license, and y'all need to make sure she gets stripped of that license. She don't need to be in the room or handling any more patients ever. And trust me, when you see incidents like this, y'all, it's not the first time she's done this. She's probably done it hundreds, if not thousands of times to people. So let's get into the video. I just can't stand hearing this poor woman screaming and hollering, and this white nurse sitting there acting so nonchalant about the whole thing. Now, how is paperwork more important than giving care to a patient? What the hell is wrong with some of y'all? How the hell is doing some paperwork that you could have done at another time? There should have been nothing more important than taking care of that patient. It's unbelievable. Okay, let me share my screen so we can get started. And we can't really just blame this on the South. This stuff goes on all over the country. It's not just in the South. Please give me a one if you can see my screen. Thank you. All right, y'all. All right, so let me just say one more thing. This might be traumatizing to some people because, you can see this woman is in agony. I can almost feel her pain. So if you can't, I would just suggest you turn your volume down. Here we go.
Ah, when's your due date? Email.
Now,
Is your due
your
date
duties
September 11th?
are
How many
every
times have
time
you
so you
been
can
pregnant?
pray.
This is your third pregnancy? Yep. You have two babies at you have
You have
two
two
babies at
babies at
home.
home.
Here's your doctor.
Lang is her doctor.
Y'all treat all your patients like this or just the black ones?
Cabrera is a personal busy for you. My last name is Jones. She's G3P2. Not sure how her due date is.
Her due date is
The 10th. Her due date's 10th.
She got 3 pregnancies, 2 babies at home. I bet y'all listen next time. When you found out you was delivering at this hospital, your ass should have changed doctors. Everybody say how they treat people.
Mail? Yes. Are you able to call the anesthesiologist? Someone is coming to take you to labor and delivery. That's not what I asked. I cannot help.
I don't think us black people realize the reason why we go through so many horrible experiences because the color of our skin. I think the reason why when we bring this up and we say that this is because you're racist, it's because of the color of my skin, people like to say, hey, don't bring race into this. And when people say things like that, it baffles me. It baffles me because who are you to tell me not to bring race into this? And the reason why you don't think it has anything to do with race is because you have the privilege of not knowing the disrespect because of the color of your skin. A lady that was in the hospital and she gave birth 12 minutes later, and then she was basically ignored, dismissed, just insanely, and the nurse was just there, just didn't mean anything, and she was screaming and she was obviously in pain, and it was just nothing to the nurse whatsoever. And the reason why another reason why so many Black women die during childbirth is because of the dismissive. I don't think we realize how much the color of our skin impacts our lives. And actually, I think we realize. I think people who are not Black doesn't realize that. And when we try to bring it up, they say, "Oh, you're bringing race into this. Has nothing to do with race. You're a part of the problem."
I think there's two key points that we're missing whenever we're talking about these Black women who have been dismissed in active labor recently. But I want to start off a video by calling a spade a spade. These cases are racial profiling. There's no other way to describe it. There is no way that these medical personnel would either send home or ignore a white woman who is in active labor and who is demonstrating signs of active labor, who's grunting like she's pushing, she's using trigger words and trigger language, and who has active labored breathing. I also think it's really important to state that ER nurses, whether they be true main ED nurses or whether they be L&D nurses, are very experienced and very quick on their feet. They can think very quickly. And honestly, even when I am hobbling out of bed, wiping my eyes at 3 a.m., if someone comes in active labor, by the time I get to the room, which it takes me 2 minutes to do so, the nurses have already inserted IVs, sometimes 2. They have hung IV fluids, they have drawn labs, made a chart for the patient, have moved the patient to a laboring room, have changed them into a gown, have gotten their history on the way to the room. So the fact that this first nurse wasn't able to do that signals to me that there's one of 3 things happening. Either you are racially profiling, either you are inept and you are not capable of doing your job, or both. In any of those cases, you shouldn't be employed, in my opinion, in the medical field. This is why there's so much medical mistrust. And this is one of the main reasons why I get frustrated, because even as a physician, I still experience medical mistrust with caring for family members or even myself when I'm getting care. But I do want to mention 2 things that I think that we need to start having in these conversations. The main point being is that it's really disheartening and frustrating and painful when you actually sit back and think about the fact that Black women cannot enjoy pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond. There's things pre-pregnancy that we have to deal with within our own culture and within the medical system itself. But even if you are planning on getting pregnant and you have a positive pregnancy test, the fact that we can't sit and enjoy that moment is really sad. Yeah, everybody might experience some anxiety and, oh, am I going to be a good mom if this is my first baby, or if I'm adding children to the mix? Am I going to be able to financially provide, or am I going to have help? We all experience those things, but the fact that Black women always have that thought in the back of their mind, like, am I going to make it out alive? It's just really sad when you think about that. It's like other women can enjoy pregnancy, and yeah, birth is obviously a painful experience. It can be very scary at times. It can be very anxiety inducing, but the fact that women can't experience joy, like there's still moments of joy that come from childbirth. And it's very frustrating, because that's the reason why I went into this field, is because I got to be with women during arguably one of the most important, if not the most important time in a woman's life. And it should be the most joyous occasion. Like I said, yeah, there's probably pain and anxiety, but still on the other end of it, it should be a happy moment. And it's like we can't have that. And even postpartum, we get dismissed, and beyond. If we have a boy, we're worried, is he going to be perceived as a threat? If it's a girl, if she goes, Lord forbid, missing, is she going to be prioritized in trying to be found? Or is she going to be dismissed whenever she comes of age? It's just really disheartening. And I think we really need to start plugging that into our conversations, because these women deserve to have a joyous birth, and they shouldn't have been dismissed, absolutely. But we also have to remember that and I don't want to speak for them, their children were shown in the video, they're beautiful. I'm sure they had little moments of joy, but that moment shouldn't be plagued by medical mistrust, dismissal, frustration, feeling like you're not being listened to. Like, it's just not fair. It's not fair that we have to endure that as a cohort. Another thing I think that we should also be considering is that when we're sharing these videos, I want us to remember that these patients come first. I understand that we all want to talk about it. We're all frustrated with the nurses and medical staff. I certainly don't want us to stop having these conversations, and I don't want us to stop spreading information. But I also want us to just take a second to remember that I don't want to speak for these women, but these women might need a second on social media when they're scrolling. They might just need a second to escape the trauma that they have experienced, because that is what it is. It's trauma that they have experienced. And they might need a second. And to see yourself on screen constantly, to relive that horrible experience, and to see the comments frustrated with the staff, yes, appropriate. Not enough, in my opinion, not enough well wishes for the mother and the parents. I think that's another thing that we need to start doing as well. When we're sharing these, like, let's just remember, like, we don't know how these women are going to process this trauma that they have gone through, and they deserve a moment of relief if they need it, because their feelings could change at any point. We also need to remember that when we're commenting and sharing, to also send prayers and well wishes for the mother. We do need to hold the medical staff accountable, and it is frustrating, and we should be sharing our anger as well, because that amplifies the situation, which it should be amplified. But we also need to remember to extend our well wishes and prayers to the mothers and the parents as well. We need to say that because they deserve it. We just need to remember them in these moments. And that's all I have to say. Bye.
The video I just watched is absolutely horrifying. There is footage circulating on social media right now of a young Black pregnant mother in active labor arriving to an emergency department, and instead of receiving urgent, compassionate care, the triage nurse appears to be more focused on completing paperwork than focusing on the human life right in front of her. It appears she doesn't visibly check her, no fetal monitoring, no stabilization, instead forms in a mother that is in active labor. This is a medical emergency, and in that moment, she appears to be completely ignored. No empathy, no humanity, just cold. And that is completely unacceptable. My heart goes out to that mother. I hope with all my being that she and her baby are okay, because we as healthcare workers, we should be the ones that embody light, hope, compassion, humanity. But in this case, all of that was missing. And here's the hard truth. This is not an isolated incident. Black women in the United States are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. 3 times. If you saw that video and if what you witnessed is an obvious display of discrimination and you felt your blood boil, you are not alone, because I am fired up too. Because this is entirely preventable. And as caregivers and as healers, we must demand better from ourselves and from our system. And to that young mother, I truly hope you're okay. I hope someone stepped in. I hope you were heard, and I hope you were seen. To my fellow healthcare workers, we need to do better. We must show up. We must listen. We must take action, because every mother deserves dignity. Every baby deserves life, and every patient deserves humanity.
My father lost his mother at 16 years old due to medical malpractice while she was pregnant with a set of twins. She walked into a hospital and never returned home to her children. When I saw the video of this white nurse ignoring the pain of this woman that is clearly in labor, in active labor, I was absolutely disgusted. Not only was that sister's information already in the system because she was due to be induced that day, but this nurse, who people have identified as LaCrista Vaughn, nonchalantly handled this woman during this emergency, to which she literally delivered her son 12 minutes after. And for those who say that this is not about race, it is always about race, especially when it comes to Black people and especially when it comes to Black women in the medical system. The maternal mortality for Black women is 10 times higher than any other demographic in the United States of America. There are still racial biases that assumes that Black people can handle a higher threshold of pain, to where we are not tended to, nor giving the proper care or medication to mitigate that pain. This book by Harriet A. Washington, called Medical Apartheid, literally details the history of medical experimentation on Black Americans in the United States. I'd also talk about how a lot of gynecological practices and advancements were as a result of testing Black women's bodies without medication or anesthesia. For me, it is not enough that LaCrista Vaughn loses her job. But white folks, it is time for y'all to stand up and stand within the gaps because Black folks have been yelling into the void. It is evident that our screams, our cries, our hurt goes unheard. Y'all have the opportunity to actually advocate and stand up against things that are blatantly wrong and racist. Do something.
Dallas Regional and the lady that was screaming while she was actively in labor and just seeing how she was treated, oh my God, it broke my heart. And it's just one of those other things that I feel like, damn, you could have a kid and be going through like one of the most traumatic things, and you could be with someone that just does not give a fuck that you're in pain or thinks that you're over exaggerating. And I'm just like, damn, like you have to think, especially when you're Black, like, damn, that could be me. That could be any one of us. And, maybe you're not even in labor. Maybe you're just in pain and being treated and disregarded. And a lot of people are saying sue for neglect. And honestly, I don't think that that's a bad idea. Again, I don't know what happened up until the time that she started recording. All I saw was that this very pregnant lady was actively in labor. I guess she was crowning, is in pain and nothing is being done. I don't know. Sometimes you just have to act an ass and show your ass at some of these places for you to get some type of respect. And I know a lot of times you don't want to do that because you're scared of already being prejudged. But based off of this, you're getting prejudged regardless. And it sucks because a lot of people are ignorant to the system or what to say and how to say certain things to get what you want. And I just hated that. I just hated it for that lady. And now I'm pretty sure she just probably had her baby, like, having to think about how rude they were to her or just not attentive they were for this lady's pain. Like, I just don't think that lady was screaming for no damn reason. Like, you talk about the due date, bitch, due date is now. Bring me to labor and delivery, put me on a bed, cut me open or have me push this baby out because that is dangerous. That lady could have just died right there. And I'm not sure what happened if she has a husband or a baby daddy, but a lot of the times too, you need someone there that's going to advocate for you. In a way that you can't for yourself at that time. And I think that's so important. I work in the medical field and I have worked in other medical centers. And I'm not gonna lie, the response that a man gets is very different from a woman or someone that knows the system. And I hate to say it, but that's just the truth. But regardless, that shouldn't have happened. I really, really hope she sues.
I have literally just watched one of the most disturbing videos that I have seen in a very long time. It was of a Black woman sitting in the triage with a registered nurse trying to get triage so that she can deliver her baby. She was literally in active labor, literally. And the registered nurse could care less, didn't give her any type of mercy, no empathy, no sympathy. And it was so disturbing. I'm talking about the fact that she was so dismissive. It was disgusting. I'm going to hold your hand when I say this is we need to start having our babies at home. We are literally paying thousands of dollars to go into someone's hospital to be treated like dirt, to be treated like scum, be treated as if we are not human. We have to start giving birth at home. And I know that sounds crazy. Keep holding my hand. I know that sounds like, no, not everybody can have a baby at home. So we are literally putting our life in jeopardy, putting our life in their hands for them to be dismissive to us, for them to dismiss every single thing that we are saying, that we are feeling. They are just dismissing it. The system is not for us. I have given birth in the last 4 years to 4 babies at home. Guess what? All 4 babies are alive. I'm alive. I'm here today to testify and say, honey, it ain't that scary. I refuse to be treated like scum in somebody's hospital at the most precious, sacred time of giving birth. The blessing that God has given us to give birth to life, to create life and to give birth to it. We are in that predicament and we're treated like scum. We are 3 times more likely to die during labor and delivery compared to any other race. Make that make sense. Listen to me. If we start giving birth at home and we refuse to go to their hospital, the hospitals, the system will lose money. Do you hear me? They will lose money and then they will start thinking twice about how they treat us. But we have to do something first. We have to stop giving birth in their hospitals. Stop giving them a reason to dismiss us. Stop giving them a reason to unalive us. They are not for us. And I'm saying this with love. I gave birth to my second child in the triage room because they was too busy asking me how many live births, how many pregnancies. And I literally was in that same predicament. And I made a choice. And I said, you know what? God, if you ever give me the ability to give birth to life again, I promise you I would do it at home. And I do it every time with Christ. And I pray that we get to a point where we start taking our own birthing experience, we'll start being more autonomy with it.
I just saw a Black pregnant woman in full labor, basically folded over in a chair, screaming, crying, fighting through contractions so hard her whole body was trembling. And what were the nurses doing? Girl, they had her off to the side like she was waiting for a haircut appointment. They were shuffling papers, chatting, walking around slow like they had all day. Not one sense of urgency. Not 1 ounce of compassion. It was like her pain didn't even register. I have never seen a woman in active labor not rush to a delivery room immediately. But this hospital, they left her sitting there, screaming so loud it echoed through the whole waiting area. She was in so much pain she didn't even look up, didn't even turn around. And what kills me is those papers they were sorting. That could have been done at her bedside at any moment. But they chose not to move. In the comments online, people saying this same hospital has harmed their family members, I'm not surprised after what I saw. The whole situation felt wrong, neglectful, and honestly, it felt racially biased. Because if that woman hadn't been Black, I truly don't believe they would have treated her like that. It was absurd, it was heartbreaking, it was unacceptable. And Dallas Regional Medical should be absolutely ashamed that any patient, especially a woman about to bring life into this world, was treated this way in their building.
I definitely agree with that. I think back when she was still living, my grandmother had 10 children, all of them except for the last one, my Aunt Brenda, was born at home. My Aunt Brenda, who's the baby, she was the only one that was born in the hospital. And my grandmother gave live births. She didn't lose one. And see, back then, a lot of our people were using midwives. In fact, my great grandmother on my dad's side was a midwife because they weren't allowed to go into white hospitals. And sometimes, I knew Black hospitals were in existence back then, but some people didn't live near them. That's why they had to have their babies at home. And, and they're right. It's not a bad thing to have your baby at home. At least you know what's going on. And when the birth is over, that baby stays with you. It doesn't go off into some nursery. So my heart goes out. I sure hope this young lady is okay because, trauma like this will stay with her forever. And I hate that. I hate that she will be traumatized by this mess when it didn't have to happen. And like I said, this nurse, we don't know how many patients she's done wrong like this, you know? And a lot of times these people, they have their racial biases. And in moments like this is when they want to take their microaggressions out on, especially us. And it's not right. So I hope she and the baby are okay. And I hope she's doing well. But I also pray she don't let this go and she get the justice she deserves. I just don't let this go. Don't let go what this nurse and the hospital that hired her did to you. And y'all, to be honest with you, if this thing was not posted on social media, they might not have gotten rid of her. It was the outcry online and people calling that medical center, getting on them about what happened. I'm sure that played a huge role in her getting fired. But at the end of the day, this woman need to get something major out of this whole thing, for real. She really does. And I just get tired of our sisters being the ones targeted in these situations. We just can't get a break no damn where. So y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. I got my next live coming up at 5:45, and this one is something that just came out about Charlie Kirk's case. They all of a sudden lost the video of Tyler Robinson turning himself in. The video had just gone missing. So we'll talk about that in more detail a little later. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your undying support for my channel. And y'all, try to be there for our pregnant sisters, especially the ones in your family or even ones that you're close with that might be a good friend. Try to be there for them because, as long as we have to go into these hospitals, somebody's got to have our back for real. Shalom, family.